Hey guys, it's me, it's Queen Auset-Heru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Pass it on to somebody else who might like it too. And don't forget to leave us a positive comment in the comment section. And stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to read out two of my favorite comments from previous videos, okay? All right, guys, so the first thing I want to say is that if you want to get a reading done, please email me. I have a bit of a waiting list, so know that if you email me, you probably won't get an appointment the same day. Some people email me and they're like, can I see you today? And I'm like, I got a 2-week waiting list. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So if you know you want to talk immediately, don't hesitate to make an appointment. Likewise, if you want to get in touch with me on social media, all my information is underneath this video. If you would like to become one of my patrons on Patreon, my link is underneath this video. My PayPal, in case you want to send me a gift, as well as my Amazon wish list, is underneath this video. So as you can see, there are a lot of things underneath each video. So if you want to get in touch with me, please check them out. The other thing I wanted to say before I get into today's topic is that we are very close to hitting 10,000 subscribers. When I started Asking Aquarius, it was like 6 of us. It was me and like 6 of my friends, you know, talking about spirituality. Now there's almost 10,000 people who have experienced the Asking Aquarius experience. So I want to thank you, all of you who have subscribed. I want to thank you all who leave comments, and this is wonderful. So as a thank you, I always do a giveaway. So if you go look in the comment section of my channel today, I put up a poll to see what do you guys want me to give away next. I'm either going to give up 60-minute readings, 3 of them, or I'm going to give up 3 items from Asking Aquarius merchandise. So please go and vote for which one you would like me to give away. And then after we hit 10,000, I will tell everybody what contest we'll do to get whatever prize it is that you guys picked. Okay? Now, I told you guys that every week I was going to do a famous Aquarius from now on. Last week we did my girl Ellen. And this week we're going to do Rick James. We're doing Rick James because he's one of my favorite Aquarius. Rick was off the hook, okay? A lot of Aquarius are like that, and it just entertains me. You know, I'm an old lady now and I don't do nothing. So it entertains me now to watch other people be wild and have fun. So Rick took it a little too far. So let's discuss Rick James. Rick James was born James Ambrose Johnson Jr. He is an African American singer known by his stage name, Rick James. He was a songwriter. He could play multiple instruments, and he was also a record producer. He was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and he started his career in his teens. Rick was born on February the 1st, the day before my daddy, and in 1948. And he died August 6, 2004. So some of you know who Rick is because some of you are my age or older. You definitely probably know who he is. And some of you, even younger people, might know who he is because he was at an award ceremony before he died in like 2003, 2004. So that's when he said his favorite line, "I'm Rick James, B." He said that. He literally got on the microphone and was like, to that girl in the back who didn't know who I am, "I'm Rick James, B." And he said the word out. And everybody started cracking up. The whole crowd cracked up. Because the one thing I want to point out when I talk about famous Aquarius is how Aquarius they are. Because some of us are more Aquarius than others. That was a very Aquarius statement. I am who I am. And Rick let that young girl know in the back who he was. 9 times out of 10, she didn't even know who he was because Rick was famous in the 70s and 80s. In like 85, his drug use got really out of control and his popularity decreased. It plummeted. But he's still a legend. So let me tell you a little bit about his Aquariusness. Rick is very much an Aquarius. I mean, he acts like a typical Aquarius. Not all of us have the same behavior, but there are some commonalities that many of us do share. So number one, he was outrageous. I mean, would say anything, do anything, was just very no holds barred, really was himself. And one thing I like about him is that he was really himself. Rick liked to experiment with drugs. A lot of Aquarius do like to experiment with drugs and alcohol. So this is very common. Some of us, like Rick, it becomes a problem because this is what caused his downfall. And we'll see that a little bit later. Rick's nickname was Super Freak. Very Aquarius as well. He was called Super Freak because he had a song called Super Freak, and it was known in the clubs and in LA and the places that he would hang that he was a super freak. He was into having sex with different types of women from different ethnicities. He didn't care. He didn't care what color or, background they had. If a woman was pretty, she was pretty. That was it. I don't know if he was bi, but it is rumored that he had some of those bisexual tendencies. And it was rumored that he had a number of wild, what I would call sexcapades, so threesomes, foursomes, 20somes, that kind of thing. Those are the rumors. And he kind of admitted certain things, but not others. He would admit things when he thought it was your business. It's just like an Aquarius. He would tell you something if he felt like it, but he didn't say everything, And one of the ways that we have so much information on Rick and these old wonderful stories of him acting crazy is because Dave Chappelle, a comedian, had a show on HBO about 10, 15 years ago. And he interviewed Rick James. He interviewed people who hung out with him during that time. And they told him these crazy stories of things that Rick would do. Oh my God, the partying. He told him the story how Rick James got tore up from the floor up, came to Eddie Murphy's house. Now, he used to hang with Eddie Murphy and his brother Charlie Murphy. Rest in peace, brother Charlie. And they said that Rick came over. Eddie Murphy had just got a brand new couch. And Rick was messed up, high off something, and he laid on Eddie's couch with his dirty shoes. And when he was asked to put his feet off his couch, he started kicking the couch and saying, F-U-C-K, your couch. And he just kept on kicking it. But he was high, So when they asked Rick, I love his answers, very Aquarius answer. When they asked Rick, why would you do something like that? And they asked him about a lot of stuff, like, why would you put your feet on that man's couch? Why would you punch Charlie Murphy in the face because you thought it was funny? Why would you do these things? There's a bunch of outrageous type stuff that he did. And they're like, Rick, why? And he was like, well, he named a certain drug, one of his favorites, and said, it's a hell of a drug. So basically, I was high. What do you want me to do? And Rick wrote a song about cannabis. Back then, and they do this too now. Rappers and singers do songs about different things. I heard one time about Molly and Percocets. People write songs about drugs. But Rick wrote this song, and back then when they wrote them, they would kind of thinly veil what they were talking about. So he didn't call it cannabis, he called it Mary Jane. So a lot of old heads call cannabis Mary Jane because of that song. And he didn't stop there. He did cannabis and he did a lot of other drugs. And at one point, his drug use got so out of control. Because mind you, he was like, he thought he was king of the world, very Aquarius, very, out there kind of energy. And at a certain point, he got himself arrested because of it. So let me tell you the other two things that are very Aquarius, then I'll tell you about the arrest. His clothing choices. He wore very outlandish outfits. Very outlandish outfits. Nowadays, they probably wouldn't even be seen as outlandish, but for that time period, he wore thigh boots and tight outfits, the kind of stuff that Prince would wear. And Rick actually accused Prince of taking his style. And when you look at the two of them, it's kind of understandable why he said that. Because Rick was dressing like this when Prince was still figuring out his style. So I can't say that Prince, a Gemini, stole his style, but it's possible according to the people who were actually in their circle and around during that time, and from me looking at his style. So it was like the tight one piece. You always see Prince in that tight one piece outfit. And Rick had those, the thigh boots, the long hair, but he usually wore his hair like in braids, and he had locks later in life. So he wore the long hair. He would put beads in his hair, stuff like that. So again, very Aquarius, very unique behavior. His music was very beloved, so very creative, very Aquarius in that way, and very eccentric because Rick did whatever Rick wanted to do, basically. And a lot of Aquarius are like that. We do whatever we want to do, you know? And as we get older and more mature, many of us figure out, maybe I shouldn't do everything I want to do. But at that time, in his youth, he was rich, he was famous, and he was doing whatever he wanted. Now let's get to the arrest. All of this partying and sex and drugs generally leads you to a bad place. I don't know too many people who live that lifestyle and don't either give it up or end up in some type of trouble because of it. And that's what happened with Rick. Rick and his wife, he ended up marrying this woman. But Rick and this woman decided to basically, I think the charge was kidnapping. I guess the drugs told him to do it. And him and his wife had this woman, and I think they were like, I think it was voluntary at first, and then they wouldn't let her go. You know, they were beating her, they were putting out cigarettes on her. They basically abused this poor woman. Of course, like I said before, taking it too far, doing whatever he wanted, high off these drugs and alcohol. And him and her basically used her as some type of weird sex slave, and got arrested for it. Him and his wife, they both went to jail for it. And when he came out of jail many years later, he was better. He was better. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but he was better. He was calmer, and he was in a better space. His music career never really reached its height again. That's why that young girl at the awards didn't know who he was, because he hadn't been famous since like 85, you know, so she probably didn't even, might not even been born yet. And basically he calmed down a little bit. You would still hear little stories about him, and he tried to revive his career. Him and one of his favorite lovers and a woman he would sing with, her name was Tina Marie, and him and her would sing together. And at the end of his life, they did a few of their songs together. Their song Fire and Desire is my favorite song by Rick James. If you have never heard Fire and Desire, when you finish watching this video, Google it on YouTube or search it on YouTube and listen to Fire and Desire. They have a lot of good songs, but that one is my favorite. Anyway, so around that time, around the 2000s, he was trying to, you know, revive his career, a little something. They even said that he was getting ready to put out, he was considering another album. He was considering doing another movie. There are movies already about his life. I found one is called I'm Rick James. Another one is called Life. And one is called 20th Century Masters, The Best of Rick James. So these you can find, I guess, online. I found this on Google. And he had 4 children. So what killed him? Well, all of that all that drugging and sexing and all that kind of stuff was very taxing on his heart. And Rick had a heart attack in 2004 and died. And what I thought was interesting about the whole situation, when they did the autopsy to see what killed him, the toxology report they called it, Rick had 9 different drugs in his system. So he was still very much using. Even though he had calmed down some, he was still using. And I was just like, wow, Rick, 9? like you couldn't just do 1 or 2, 9? So he hadn't beat his addictions. Obviously, his experimentation had turned into addiction at some point, and even though he slowed down, he was never able to stop. So Rick James is definitely a famous Aquarius, and his story is is not surprising to me for an Aquarius. It's very Aquarius behavior. I just wish he had been able to kick it, because he probably would have lived longer and been able to do more great music. Rick was very talented. So that's our famous Aquarius. Now let's take a look up top, and I'm going to read you guys 2 of my favorite comments. Number 1 came from Brittany. Brittany says, President Obama has an Aquarius rising. I did not know that, girl. Oh my God. If I'm coming around you and observing you, I'm taking the time to figure you out. I do not associate with people I don't like at all. You can't trap me. I agree. Very Aquarius. I don't like you. I ain't dealing with you. I'm just going to suddenly fade the black or just leave you be in some kind of way. Now, the part about President Obama having an Aquarius rising is interesting to me, because he also has a Leo sun. So I'm like, wow, he's really on fire. I love that. Love that combination. Gabriel Mescagni said, love your videos. Keep it up. Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you so much. All right, guys, it's time for us to get going. So you come back soon, because I have so much more to say. You wouldn't believe how much more I have to say. So come back very soon. See you later.